Good morning, guys. Sorry, getting us started a little late.
Hey, can you all hear me?
Yeah, absolutely. How's your morning going?
Good. How about yours?
Oh, really, really well so far. Happy to be here. Sorry, got it started just a little bit after 10:30.
Oh, no, no worries at all. I was having trouble with my mic, so I'll yeah, totally cool.
I'm just gonna make sure we get this the last notification pushed to our Discord really quickly and give some time for a few individuals to kind of filter in, and then I'm ready to I'm ready to dive right in and hear all about what you all are up to, and then share a little bit about where we're at Boring Protocol and really get into it.
Yeah, that sounds great. It's been a minute since we've all had a chance to connect, so super excited to hear where you guys are at and the direction you all are headed.
Perfect. Yeah, I'd be super happy to share that. I'm just gonna just one moment getting this out to the guys who are living in Discord and Telegram really quickly. All right, we should be unless you'd like to give it a few minutes for some other individuals to kind of get in here, we can get it started.
Yeah, totally your call, man. I'm good with whatever.
Yeah, sorry, I thought my mic was muted, but I was gonna say if you all just want to give us kind of an update. I know that you guys at Genesys Go have been pushing tons of updates to Medium and leaking all the alpha. If you wanted to just kind of go through in your own words, what the most important things that you all have been working on recently, and kind of maybe some upcoming things to look forward to, whether it be keeping an eye out on your Medium or really watching that Twitter for the information, or anything you feel like you need to share with the community.
Yeah, I mean, it's so our focus hasn't changed, right? It's pushing out Shadow Drive, which will be knock on wood, live here in what is this? This is April something, end of April. So this will be hopefully live here in the next 10 to 14 days. We've been targeting a early May release, and right now it's very much focused on uh, setting the community up to kind of continue the expansion of NFTs and the Solana ecosystem. I think there's been some really interesting developments with Solana as a whole, um, in terms of kind of where it's found its niche in kind of the ecosystem of all blockchains, and so yeah, so it's obviously a huge pain point for the ecosystem and for the community, and one that we'll be able to solve pretty easily for them. But after that, the team is full force going to be diving into what I kind of alluded to at the end of the most recent Medium article, which was what we're calling the Shadow Net, which really is effectively uh, private instanced blockchains, or private dedicated blockchain instances, where somebody can basically connect and spin up their own instance of the Solana blockchain, and in the future, any blockchain, and then use that private instance in order to do dev work, test and push updates, or because of our integration with the wormhole and the upcoming work that we'll be doing with the wormhole team, the some really cool stuff starts to happen, because then these private, instances of whatever blockchain, somebody wants to be building on, are able to then, actually be done using like real assets, real tokens. So, like a great example, right, is somebody can mint their own, can mint their NFT, right? Can initialize and mint their candy machine, mint their NFT on the main chain, but then go into their own, like create, go into their own dedicated, basically recreation, or as we're calling it, their shadow realm of the Solana blockchain, to do the auction and to do the sale of their NFT. And because of the functionality that we're building in with Wormhole, the like all the signatures and the integrity of the consensus that's reached on that in that, kind of the private little shadow realm, is now able to be transported through the wormhole to the main chain. So it's very much having your own little pocket dimension, and and much like, real wormholes are theorized to operate, you then take them, are transported to your primary dimension, if you will. So we're really excited about that. It's gonna be a ton of fun. We've been working with the Solana Labs team, and kind of laying out the structure and laying out, how we want to approach this and how we want to go about doing it. But ultimately, I think, we're looking at building, or we're looking at like the kind of final form of the ShadowNet to be something that takes all the best parts, and this is kind of what we do, right? We identify something as as a cool space to go into, and we look at like what are the best things, best parts about the existing, things that are already out there, and how do we take those best parts and combine them into something even better. And that's what we're doing with the ShadowNet. So it's almost like, we're taking the best parts of like an easy comparison is like the Kusama network, except we're enhancing that to truly make it into something that is usable not just for a development team, or not just for dev purposes, but something that becomes incredibly useful for, actual real life applications.
Well, thank you so much for sharing more about the ShadowNet and the Shadow Drive. It's really awesome to hear that you guys are. It sounded like you guys are going to be working pretty closely with Wormhole and accomplishing that. Um, I wanted to just say that the Genesys Go being the Kusama of Solana is quite the narrative I've been hearing thrown around. So just more kudos to you guys, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it does seem like a kind of uh, more realistic test net that people could maybe test things or do some transactions, whatever it be for, on a a safer way before they're pushing it onto the or bridging to the main Solana blockchain. Is that the most simplistic terms? We could break that down a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of one of the use cases, right? That's what's so exciting about it. Dev perp. Can you hear me?
I think we lost you a little bit. Might have
There we
driven
go.
under a bridge.
It's Bluetooth swapping between different things. But yeah, no. So that's one of the really exciting things, right? Is that yes, everything that you just described, it acts, fills that need that I think, a lot of teams, a lot of developers struggle with right now, which is, the difference between building something on DevNet and then deploying it to mainnet, because the existing DevNet does operate, it operates incredibly similar, but there are enough differences, just simply because of the architecture of the DevNet, that at this point it's almost like the Solana ecosystem has grown and expanded beyond, kind of the initial design, if you will. And so, that's definitely part of or one of the use cases where, developers are able to actually test in a real life environment. They're actually able to, not just simulate, but have actual real traffic, but do it in a way that it doesn't get impacted by anything that's going on the main chain, and vice versa. And so that's gonna be something that's really cool, because by building out the shadow net, we effectively are able to take and transport some of the traffic, whether it's dev purposes, you know um, whether it's something that's going to be like incredibly intensive. We're able to take that traffic and kind of transport it away into its own environment, and yet still maintain like full connectivity with the main chain. So transactions, if the owner, if the user of a shadow realm wants it to be this way, then transactions that take place in their shadow realm are just as real as if they would have taken place on the actual chain.
Right. That's such a really that's from like a developer point of view. It always brings to mind, wherever developers feel the most comfortable, and definitely having building that shadow realm out and giving them that control, whether they're wanting to, and that control and that like extreme testability, for lack of better words, pushing it pretty much straight to the chain, and not on a testnet environment. Uh, it just speaks to me that it's going to attract. It seems like it'll attract a lot of developers, and like I said, the that narrative is going to go crazy. I mean, you guys are really, and what stuck out or sticks out to me is that you said you look at existing things and see how you can provide more utility or provide more functionality to them in the space. And I think that we saw that with your NFT drop many moons ago, and seeing how you all have developed is, the people that weren't privy to what you were doing on the back end and maybe just saw the NFT side. Now they know. It makes a lot of sense, and that just reminded me of something you all had done in a similar fashion.
Yeah, I think that's. I think one of the things that we get really excited about is, we tend to put a ton of focus on our ability to be nimble and to look at different pieces of the ecosystem, and and then like ask ourselves, are we reinventing the wheel here? One of the things that we borrowed is a building thought process, in which we're always asking ourselves, is this a dumb requirement? And that's something that it's actually ultimately it's like part of Tesla and SpaceX, is like the way that they build and the way that they have owners of different tasks. They're always looking at all different parts of whether it's the car or the rocket. It's they had a situation like really early on where they found like this one part. It was like a fire shield or something in the front of the kind of in front of the passenger in a Tesla, and nobody knew why it was there. They kind of went to like multiple different departments, and each department had like a different explanation of why they thought it was there, but nobody had ever stopped to ask, like, is this thing a dumb requirement? In that it's an extra part that they were working on, they were building, they were maintaining, they were working around, and and they also discovered that nobody, like no single person, owned that part in the sense of was responsible for defending its right to exist. And so when we with the shadow drive, for instance, or our network, we're kind of always asking ourselves, like, is this is building something from scratch a dumb requirement? I think it's where a lot of uh, tech, a lot of people in tech, it's easy to kind of get lost down a rabbit hole of, got to build this, and then we have to do this. There's layers and layers of requirements, and it's very easy to put those on. It's very, where it's difficult is to strip them away and figure out like what's the most bare bones thing that that works and that like serves the use case, and then look and understand like at a fundamental level, how does this thing actually operate? And just one of the things that we found is it's very rare when you need to build something completely from scratch. That I think tends to be a much more uh, academic exercise than it is a practical exercise. And for us, and it's just this is just a kind of like a fundamental difference in the way that our team works, because our needs are different for what our team is doing, right? We're not trying to be like on the absolute like cutting edge of ripping apart code. It's like most elemental level, and trying to build it back, build it all together. For us, it's all about like what can we build that's practical, that's usable, and helps push the ecosystem forward. Without reinventing the wheel. And we've just found that is the one of the best ways to approach that is to ask, what exists that's already out there, how is it being used, and can it be used differently?
Awesome. I think that's such a refreshing approach, especially in crypto. What pops up into my mind is when you're talking about the defending a certain design element, and translating that towards to y'all's project. Obviously software development and working remote and this type of thing. Having the ability to kind of eliminate that redundancy. I just feel like in this space especially, we see a lot of projects not have quite as clear of direction in their early stages. I mean, we're all pretty new projects if you're
Oh
looking
yeah.
at a 5 year time frame. So it's really nice to hear, you know, that you guys are constantly working towards eliminating anything that is not needed, or if no one feels strongly about this, then it's probably not a strongly or a heavily needed feature. And then just going back to not reinventing the wheel and building upon and improving those existing systems, I think is probably your guys's, and you execute it extremely well. I think that's probably one of the kind of different facets to Genesis Go that you might not see in a lot of other projects. It kind of embodies a real, almost like, I know I can identify with this being a boring, we have like kind of a brick and mortar approach too, just kind of like lean it down, what's going to what's going to actually work the best and what's going to be the best result for either developers who are using it in the shadow realm in your case, or
Hmm.
users on a DVPN network in ours. And I think that really translates to whether it be marketing or internal docs or the thesis and communication of the project as a whole. The more lean and focused it is, the easier it's going to be to communicate your message. And especially when you do things well, like you all have done in the past, that obviously makes it super, puts people in a comfortable position if they're on your team.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It makes for some really fun conversations too, because as I said, um, everybody has to own the various pieces of certain pieces of the project, right? And you end up having to teach the people that aren't owners of that. You end up having to like teach them like why this part exists, or why like you feel strongly about this process. And it's I think the mark of a good team is something that I get really excited about when I observe our team. The mark of a good team is that they can disagree with each other. They can feel comfortable enough to educate one another, and they ultimately like feel good enough about the team that they're a part of, that they can admit when, oh yeah, this doesn't make sense anymore. But I think that's a foundational aspect of team building, right? Is setting that groundwork kind of from the get go, and then really living it, right? Like his it's there can't be any member of the team that doesn't buy into the approach, because what ends up happening is eventually there's a part or a piece or a process that they just like really fall in love with, and eventually if the support isn't there from a team building perspective, then that's how you end up with like rifts and things like that being caused, because somebody starts to take something personally. And the reality is that none of this is like, nothing's personal in building, but you have to be incredibly pragmatic. And I think a lot of developers, they get very focused on their point of view, and then they seek as much confirmation bias as possible uh, to try to keep that confirmation or keep that point of view alive. We see it all the time in people that are trying, that try to like pick apart various pieces of projects, and they get really, really focused on this one little nuance of something, and they do that to the exclusion of how that one little nuance fits into everything else, because they've decided, well, this part of the whole, this is going to be the way that I attack, or this could be the way that I discredit. And it's they end up just looking like really, really foolish, because it's they're it's like they're trying to analyze this full thing by taking a microscope to one piece. And if there's anything that building in Web3 has taught I think all of us, it's that you should never have any singular point of failure. It's the kind of the cornerstone of decentralization. And that means you also have to make sure that the way in which you build has no singular point of failure. And I think people forget that very quickly.
You brought up a crazy amount of good points that, when you're, especially, and I feel like a lot of the things you communicated are a symptom of being, I know not all teams are remote, but these are difficulties that could be much, we can't read human emotion as easily through the voice. We can't relate as easily. And something that stuck out to me is when I don't think a lot of people, especially on the necessarily on the foundation, the founder side, the developer side, when people get locked down into that niche where they feel like they're comfortable. And to me, that's human nature as well. They've been comfortable. They might have been developing this particular feature, getting bogged down, and it becomes their kind of personality sometimes. And sometimes it's really hard to look in the mirror if you're in that position and ask, is this something that the protocol needs, or is this something that the project needs, or is this something that I need to feel like I'm a part of the project? And like you said, the people that make up your team are going to be the biggest uh, determining factors if this is going to be an issue or not, because communication is so important. And if they had a little bit more trust or rapport built with their teammates, they would probably feel comfortable saying, you know what, man, I'm just not feeling like my skills are being heard right now, and I'm feeling we're moving away in feature set towards what I'm working on, and get them kind of, for lack of better terms, realigned with the whole thesis of the team, whether it be in that particular area or even just eliminating their area fully and then bringing them into another one where they're just as valuable. It's quite it must be extremely humbling, and like you said, very the biggest indicator of probably a project's success in this space isn't going to be funding helps, but funding connections are all nice, but when the going gets tough, it's really going to come down to that team. If they're going to be able to keep working when the funding is less than optimal, or just downright hard market conditions. Those people that are like yourself and many of the other people that have been not just in the Solana ecosystem but crypto in general, the ones that have continually pushed through the hard times and delivered, and whether they had their issues or not, showing up every day really means a lot in this space, and I think that's a trait of a really good team. And I just wanted to agree with every single thing you said, and the difficulties of developing in Web3 is, there's no shortage.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it ultimately comes down to the tone and tenor of the team, which I think is a uh, is a result of the leadership, right? Like if I think you can anybody can step in, I think, to a team and get a sense of like what's the vibe here, but ultimately a team's a reflection of the way that it's led, right? And uh, that something I think that has always kind of amazed me is how often the environment very much reflects it never reflects like the words of a team or the leadership of a team. It always reflects the actions, and so it's it's one of those things where it's really easy to say, and I think probably all teams say this, right? Like this is it's a space where anybody can voice their opinion. This is every idea is valid, but then you kind of come in and you see projects that have quote like their quote leadership that is they're too afraid to say like I don't know. They're too afraid to let their team know that the like ideally the team that you have, the team any team should be massively smarter than you, and that's kind of like the concept, like you always want to be the dumbest person in the room, but in doing so it shows that, like, it kind of shows everyone that it's okay to not know something, or it's okay to have an idea that isn't going to work, or it's okay to have your part deleted because it no longer makes sense. But I think in this space especially, it's to your point, right? Everything is so young and everybody is so new. I think there's a lot of just kind of like still trying to figure out like what does the dynamic look like of being a team in Web3. And for us, the dynamic that we've chosen, for better or worse, is let's build something that is all about the user experience, in terms of you know we already have enough glass chewing to do, so to speak, on Solana, right? Just because it is a very early chain. We are in mainnet beta, and so we're always looking at ways to say, like, how can we reduce the amount of friction points along the way.
Yeah, I think that approach, and obviously you guys have a lot of past success already, being like the one of the premier infrastructure providers for Solana, and I just wanted to give you all a shout out. I know that Genesis Go has been one of our biggest kind of allies, navigating some of these like difficult waters over the past 10 months. It's just been we've always it's always been nice to see support from you guys. And um, something that stood out to me again was when you're talking about the founder. We're so incredibly grateful at Boring, because we have one of the most down to earth, and something popped up in my mind when you mentioned it's okay to say, from a leading perspective, especially in Web3, that you don't know. I mean, that's just a symptom of being so new. And one of the most refreshing things was coming in and FOMO asking for, whether it be writing internal docs or whether it be something that's extremely forward facing that he authors himself. He's never shy to ask for opinions or inputs or edits or just genuine help on getting the concept finished out. And the core team at Boring's been together for, I think many of us have probably been working together consistently for the past six months, and some of them have been there for the past year, 10, 11 months. And it's really I just kind of wanted to give a shout out to our founder. He might, hopefully he tunes in here in a little bit, but it's really, you don't, especially in the space that seems to be so flush with liquidity, and you see a lot of bigger entities coming in and not commandeering projects, but maybe being a little bit more stringent and not as nimble as you would say. We try to really embody, especially with our products as well, and our the way we do things is nothing's really black and white in this space. We know we like to take things that have had past success and improve upon them, just like any industry, and that's why it can be hard to kind of like you said, if your part gets edited, it's no longer makes sense and it needs to be retracted or amended. We're all still learning, and it's crazy to think that some of the mechanisms that are seen as staples of DeFi are being implemented on new chains like Solana that have existed for 2-3 years on Ethereum are kind of being seen as the standard, and not as you all are taking existing systems and improving upon it. I see a lot of people taking existing systems and putting them onto more systems, cloning things that are on Ethereum or any other blockchain, and then putting it onto Solana or Avalanche or any other chain. And it's just refreshing to have a conversation where the importance, at Genesis Go, I can definitely feel the importance and stress you all put on not just a fundamentally strong team that completely has the same approach to development and being a staple in the Solana space, but also your approach to product features and the way you roll things out. I know it shows us at Boring kind of a winning playbook and the way to communicate, and really provides a good, not just for ourselves, but I would kind of implore any other smaller developer project to kind of take a look at the way you all presented yourself and the success that you've had just over the past year doing so. So just kudos to you guys, and I don't know. I'd be more than happy to go into why we really embody it at Boring. Being nimble. I really like that
Yeah,
phrase.
yeah, I'd love to hear that.
So just like a little update, if you all know nothing about Boring Protocol, if you're listening in, we are a DVPN built on Solana. So we are a network of user-operated endpoints that allows for you to either geo-hop or obfuscate your data through one of these nodes, these user-operated endpoints. And this hardware was sold by us, and it's running our proprietary software. The DVPN is built on top of WireGuard, and that's open source, fully audited, multinational IBC grade encryption. So this is big deal, and the way we've implemented it has been distributing 500 to 600 nodes, like these user operated nodes, to get the distribution and the connectivity of the network. At least in our beta stage right now, trying to get that really, really. I should reword that. We're really focusing on distributing these nodes well, so we can obviously have good network coverage and make sure that someone even in Belgium or Turkey or the U.S. can have the option to obfuscate out of many countries. And really happy to say that we have, I believe, over maybe I think now it's a dozen, but just the other day we had 10 or 11 operate our provider nodes operational in 11 separate countries. So just to rephrase that, I kind of got tongue tied. We have our hardware, the Boring Protocol, the motherboard V1. We have provider nodes active in a dozen countries now. And you feel free to look at our docs. It's got the full list. If you are operating one of the boards right now and you want to try, you can go and check out the full list of countries there. But we obviously had a huge bottleneck with the hardware situation. We started sourcing these pies over a year ago, and the cost was about like 60% lower than they are now. And if we're wanting to expand this network and really get a vast network of user operated endpoints, these motherboards, right? We had a dilemma, and we tried to be like water and just go the easiest route and that would please our customers the most. And we've been developing other ways to do this as well. Thinking about digital downloads as opposed to doing hardware But to make a long story short, we had a lot of trouble with sourcing all of these pies, and luckily we were able to get a partnership with a manufacturer inside the Raspberry Pi Foundation to get several thousand more of these V2s in full scale production nodes. But in the meantime, that doesn't change that if we potentially scale up to more than several thousand, that leaves us with customers that are wanting a DVPN and they're not able to go ahead and get that if we're just relying on hardware. So we've been slowly rolling out and announced on, I believe, on April 4th or April 2nd, that we're offering the motherboard SD. So anybody that has any type of, I believe it's, I can't remember the exact architecture right now, but if you have a Raspberry Pi laying around, you'll be able to pop this motherboard SD in and be a fully operational node, no different than the motherboard V1 or V2 in its fancy case. You're just going to be able to save money and source your own hardware, whether it be a Raspberry Pi or taking a chance with something else. We only recommend that one. So I just wanted to touch on that because that was one of the really big dilemmas looking at this. We're not deriving any type of capital from the tokenization. We don't have the type of maybe, and I know you all can relate, the type of VC investment where you see it in a lot of Solana projects. So we're really deriving the way we're bootstrapping the project and development for, 1, 3, 5 years down the line through these hardware sales or, through these motherboard SD sales. So I just wanted to touch on that and give an update. If we get that question a lot, what about the difficulties sourcing the hardware? Well, we are moving towards that digital download, hopefully. Nothing's set in stone now, but in the meantime, we've been able to source easily thousands of SDs, and I believe we should be shipping those out by June. So that's, a 2-month turnaround time as opposed to a 4-month turnaround time, and eventually, for our products and customers, we'll be able to get that out. You place an order, and a year from now, it's fulfilled that next day is kind of what we're going for. Get that full scale production assembly line, and we definitely have the partnerships and people kind of on the inside of the manufacturing and hardware side. We finally have them on our team. I just wanted to share that and give a little update for those people who don't know.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, we're really really happy to talk about that and share that update with you all. And like I said, I can't give a big enough shout out to Genesys Go, and y'all over there have been one of the biggest. I'm not sure if you would describe it like this, but it feels like we've kind of had y'all in our corner, so to speak. Yeah, even if it's just shooting questions every now and then, or having calls, between FOMO and yourself. I think it's something that we really appreciate, and we're really really happy that we were able to kind of chop it up on this space today.
Yeah, no, I mean, always happy to help, answer questions or give feedback. And yeah, definitely enjoyed the conversation. I think, like I said, kind of at the beginning, I think we're super excited about the direction we're headed. It's funny, we're as excited as we are about Shadow Drive launching here in the next week or so. Like the Shadow Net is quickly becoming something we're becoming, like we've become even more excited about. So I think that's going to be some really cool stuff that's going to allow us to kind of like flex our creative muscle a little bit more than we've been able to be building in the infra space. So this is this is going to be really exciting for us, and it's going to be cool that we'll be able to use the shadow token as a true, like, it's going to be really cool to see this, like, the shadow token you know turn into a true, like, gas token, and like really have that, like, have its utility, like, bolstered by not just being a storage utility token, but now actually, you know, I don't know if it would be technically considered a like a full layer two, so maybe like a layer 1.5. That's it's kind of like the whole shadow moniker, right? It's like where Solana goes, we go also, because we're Solana's we're designing our architecture to be truly like Solana shadow. Um, and I think this is going to make for some really cool advancements with the token and just kind of like our architecture in general. And what'll be really awesome is the way that the ShadowNet integrates with the way the ShadowNet integrates with our existing architecture is it's really not possible to do the ShadowNet right without Shadow Drive. And so knowing that ShadowNet is sitting on top of the foundation that is Shadow Drive also kind of acts as like a proof of concept, if you will, for what is like really our ultimate goal for Shadow Drive, and that is to have it be the foundation by which an entire ecosystem is built on top of. And I think Solana Solana acting as a state machine is incredibly powerful if you actually like truly view Solana the way that it was meant to be viewed, in my opinion. And because then you start to realize that it can be used in a whole host of new and creative ways that I think those who get focused on nothing but pure minutia all day in and all day out, and don't give themselves a chance to step back and kind of like try to see the bigger picture. Because again, as I said earlier, right, they're too busy trying to find affirmations to their own confirmation biases. You very quickly miss what is like really the biggest like opportunity on Solana, in that it's I think arguably one of the most misunderstood chains that exists. And once you kind of like wrap your head around that notion, some really amazing possibilities kind of start to unfold. So yeah, definitely happy to connect with you all again. Definitely enjoy our conversation. So really appreciate the conversation today.
Absolutely. Thanks for, I know we rescheduled another time, but it's just so, like I've said it many times, but it's refreshing. It's good to hop in a conversation with you in this type of forward facing spaces as well, because I know in our town halls and our other spaces, the feedback we've gotten from the community has been so great to communicate, not just, verbally, but also to articulate in full full form, long form, the full message of what we're trying to do, if it's that's that type of space, if it's about us, or if we're coming and doing these talks, just general talks, and getting up to speed with other strong people in the ecosystem like yourself are doing. And I want to give a shout out to one of the other people that we've done spaces with who's been in the Solana ecosystem for forever as well. That's Soul Ape. Looks like they're listening as well. So I wanted to give them a shout out since we've done some spaces and we know the great folks over there. But just one thing, correct me if I'm wrong, but it does seem like from if you were to see, look at the activity, it looks like the younger developers, the next generation developers, is really leaning towards Rust and being that almost like that playground or layer 1.5 testnet, bridging the gap on Solana, which could very easily move into that number three, behind Ethereum, layer one competitor. It seems like you guys are well posed at with the Shadow Realm and the Shadow Net to really have an abundance of developers and people who are wanting to come and use your product or use the system that you've developed, or I should say, improved upon.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's I think that's there's a lot of kind of different ways that you can uh, that you can set up, like how to build everything. And I think there's the benefit of doing it like where we're doing it. And I think one of the reasons why so many developers are pushing this direction is because the build out, like, while the build out on Solana may have its own unique sets of difficulties, right? I think it answers, it solves many of the other problems, much bigger problems that I think developers experience building on other chains. And so whether that's like getting over the initial hurdle with Rust, and I kind of get to see somebody who came in and started building in Rust, who didn't, kind of like become a fan of it as the more and more that they got used to it and got to know it. And so yeah, I think there's definitely tons of people that are coming over because the space it's actually easier to build in a lot of ways. It's unfamiliar, it's foreign. And but once you kind of get your feet underneath you, I think based on my observations, it's actually becomes a very developer friendly place.
Yeah, I would really have to agree, especially working with some people that have experience, coming from other chains and then getting them, whether it be, set up, so to speak, on Solana, or bringing them, onboarding them as a developer into, whether it be boring or whatever, whatnot. You see a fondness quickly for Solana, and just that just speaks more to kind of, you guys are definitely on the right track. You're in the right place, and it really must feel good knowing that you guys have found a way to improve upon something and fundamentally give it more value, and not just value in a propped up sense, but actual attracting developers and good talent to Solana through this, Shadow Net in the Shadow Realm, Shadow Drive. And I think the phrasing and the marketing, whichever term you prefer, is amazing with that. Wherever Solana goes, we're their shadow. We have to go with them. That we're just going to be there. So I mean, I
Hmm.
really want to give you all credit for developing that idea, and it just makes it such an easy um, conceptually very easy to understand for even someone who doesn't have like low level technical knowledge of crypto, or they basically just need to understand the principles and why it's important. And more
Hmm.
developers bullish for the chain, obviously really bullish for I don't like to use that term, but it is what it is. More developers coming to the space, into this uh, ecosystem, is going to be better for everybody in the ecosystem, and if, ideally better for the greater crypto ecosystem as a whole, not just Solana. If we're really
Oh yeah,
setting out to do what we want, right?
I mean, absolutely. I think the one of the biggest, greatest indicator of Solana's potential success, potential failure, is the amount of devs that are building on it, which is one of the it's kind of one of the questions that I hear a lot, especially as we see like Solana having like working through the congestion issues and everything. Is a lot of people like is Solana going to make it? And they look at like TPS as this be all end all, right? Like look at the OpenSea debut on Solana, right? It wasn't the best day for the network. And I know there's a lot of people that were freaking out about it. Like this is so embarrassing. This is that. Uh, and yet they're still here, right? They're still building here. They're if I'm not mistaken, I think it was God, what was it, Bears or whatever? It just had like an amazing NFT drop. And I was seeing volume across like all exchange or all marketplaces, including OpenSea, right? And it's like I think people get too hung up. Again, this kind of is what goes to uh, confirmation biases, right? Somebody like people get too hung up on the fact that they're experiencing issues, and so they try to find something, right? And they look at TPS, which is very much admittedly has been a problem. But if you want to if you want a much greater leading indicator, if you will, as to how whether or not Solana's on track for continued growth. Just look at the number of developers and the number of projects that are building, because I think that's actually like arguably one of the smarter things that Solana's ever done, is they focused on building community, and that's why that's why there's such a focus on continuing to pump hacker houses, right? They already have the next breakpoint planned, and it's one of the things that makes us excited about, like, so we're going to be at Hacker House London, we're going to be at Lisbon, for breakpoint this year again, and because the thing that I think a lot of people forget is that community and a sense of belonging, that is actually, that's more valuable than just about anything. I think Solana gets that, which is why for them this is not a these actions, they elicit comments from people of, like, oh, hope the Solana team's having fun, in Miami while the network's burning to the ground. It's like, no, that's not the case. The network is it's not like work stops, right? When we were in Miami, we were in the process of rolling out massive network changes, and it was it was go spend some time at the event, but it did not slow down at all the amount of working that we were doing. But I think people very vastly underestimate how important it is uh, to attract, like, new people, and you actually don't do that simply from a product standpoint alone. It's one of the reasons why I love our community in the SSC DAO channels, because for the past however many months, we've slowly been cultivating, like, this amazing community that they're capable of having, like, very very deep conversations, and disagreeing with them, disagreeing with each other on very foundational levels, and yet that it doesn't create strife, it doesn't impact anything, and it also allows them the chance to, when things aren't going as well as anyone would like, it gives them something to fall back on, right? And I think projects make the mistake of, they try to like pump their project purely from hype, but hype is, like, so incredibly unsustainable, and it's one of those live by the sword, die by the sword types of things. What when hype fades, community is going to be what remains. And I think the Solana team knows that. I think that's why they put such a huge focus on community building. And it's community is one of those things where tech problems get solved. The tech problems are easily solved, right? It may take some time, it may take some resources, but all tech problems are ultimately completely solvable. But it is a much harder endeavor, for anybody who hasn't ever done it before. It's a much harder endeavor to build a community, build a culture. And I think you can always tell somebody who has never built a culture before, because they don't understand its value. And it's, I think, like I say, when it comes to the team, like the Solana team, and whether or not the Solana ecosystem is going to survive, what makes me, like, the reason why I'm totally fine with, like, phrases like, being bullish on X, Y, or Z, is because I see them doing all the right things when it comes to building, like, true community. I mean, hell, it's one of the reasons why the Solana monkey business, or excuse me, it's one of the reasons why, like, Monkey DAO is as prevalent as it is, right? Because they've done a phenomenal job of building community, and that's something that I think everyone in the ecosystem, all projects in the ecosystem, could benefit from learning the difference between, is the difference between building community and building hype. And if you have a community or if you have a project that's not building community, instead they're building hype, then you really have to ask yourself, are they here for the long term? Because I think in a lot of cases the answer is likely no.
I couldn't.
Like
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Michael.
sorry, I like how you mentioned about the fact that a couple of people were discussing how the Solana TPS is holding back development and people coming into the space. But I believe like last 24 hours have just shown that that's completely untrue. With the bears, as you mentioned, literally 200,000 solar volume in the past 24 hours has come into Magic Eden just to trade bears. And Solana TPS has been not the best throughout, and it's clearly not holding back new people from coming in to projects that they care about and have that community built.
Absolutely, and I would even say like uh, set aside and look at more of the intangibles, right? You don't see major projects on Solana making announcements saying I'm leaving, we're leaving to go build on another chain. Like that is that means that like you have teams like users, traders, like they're all going to come and go, right? It's like when we built our first validator. One of the reasons why one of the things that we kind of noticed, right, is that there's this crowd of stakers that they just kind of chase APR, right? Doesn't matter like what you do, they're always going to leave and they're always going to go to the next thing. And so, I think it's like I said, users are fickle, but develop like builders and teams, they invest time, they invest resources, and again, I only see projects announcing their debut on Solana. I don't see projects announcing their departure, right? And I don't mean, I'm not saying that like from even like a I don't see meaning like, I don't see in the future hypothetical standpoint. I mean, like literally, like I don't think I've ever seen on Twitter, like as I've kind of just been doing scrolling and scanning through over the past year, I don't think I've ever seen a large project, or really any project, just say like, yep, we're out because TPS issues, right? To your point, no, like builders are coming over despite the TPS issues, right? That's what totally means when he talks about like quote chewing glass, right? It's he says things like building a like if you're building something worthwhile, the user experience doesn't matter. Which it's he kind of said that one a few times kind of off the cuff, but what he really means is like if you're building something worthwhile, people are going to be willing to build alongside you and go through the same things that you're going through. And like I say, if we were to start seeing major projects kind of throwing in the towel and saying, "Oh, it's killing our business, we got to go," that'd be one thing. But yeah, with where we're at now, all I'm seeing is people coming in, and so yeah, that makes me incredibly like bullish for the future. So I'm super excited. But I do have to hop. I do have a hard stop. So I just want to say thanks so much, everybody, for having me on the spaces. Really enjoyed the conversation, and thanks to everyone who tuned in and listened to us talk for way too long. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on, and sorry it ran a little bit. I really honestly didn't even realize how long we were running. It was really great, this opportunity to have you guys on the spaces, and I think that our community and I know personally us at Boring really appreciate you all, and we implore everyone from our Boring community to go check out Genesis Go. I'm sure they already have. We've been sharing some Medium articles to get them ready before this spaces to kind of understand y'all a little bit better. But yeah, just to cap it off, thank you so much, and it's really been great discussing not just infrastructure and Web3 and the difficulties and challenges we might see from a team perspective, but also giving that much needed reassurance for some people if they had any questions that if the short term limitations or drawbacks, which TPS issues is just that, it's kind of a short term drawback. it's not discouraging anyone worthwhile, and the community is really here to build in the long run, especially on the development side. So just thank you once again, and it's been great talking to you all. So thank you everyone for listening in. Michael, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Just from this conversation, it's truly shown it's an exciting couple of months coming up for the Solana infrastructure space with our V2 SD and Node shipping in June and August, along with the Shadow Drive coming out as well in their developments. It's really exciting to see what's coming up for Solana.
Absolutely. Like Michael said, make sure to go check out our new products. They'll be in our bio linked. That's just store.motherboard.limited, I believe. It's in our bio. If you have any interest in privacy, passive income, running a node for decentralized internet, decentralized network ran through Boring Protocol, please go check out that link, or feel free to DM or hop in our Discord, any of the channels, and ask away or reach out to the team. So just wanted to say once again, thank you to everyone that's been listening. Thank you all so much. We had a great audience, and we really, really look forward to the next spaces we will be doing. We partners with Genesys Go obviously today, and I think next week we're going to be shooting for another spaces that we'll be happy to announce here coming up next Monday probably. So keep an eye out for that spaces, and thank you all once again.
Thank you everyone for listening in.